never saw my writing make as much of a difference and draw as much of a reaction as when I started writing about food. Because I was writing about real people who are ignored, who are overlooked in the sense. You go to your favorite restaurant, but you don't think that you don't even think about the chef that's in the back cooking or the long, interminably long process that the food took to get to your plate from the people who picked it in what country and what their status was to where you are paying. And I felt like when I write about food, there are many more stories to tell in one dish.
Welcome to this special headphoneless episode of Pan Con Podcast because I forgot them at home, but I will be monitoring the audio visually with the little barritas on this aparato. We are joined as usual by 8th grade basketball MVP, chili cook-off champion, and alleged chef Michael Beltran.
I'm not sure anymore.
And special guest, the James Beard Award-winning Miami Herald food editor, Carlos Frías. And this is one that I will every once in a while I decide to preempt Mike with an introduction. The last time I did that was Rosa Maria Paya. I have not read your book. However, I wish I could find them. Maybe you can tell me why I can't.
I have two copies.
You can find it at the Chugg's Diner bookstore.
Not the book. Right. No, the columns, not columns, the series that you wrote for the Palm Beach Post before the book came out.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And what year was that?
That would have been 2006.
2006. So I was either a freshman or a sophomore in college. I am not an emotional person, but I remember having to, excuse myself is a strong word because I was in a big auditorium classroom at the University of Missouri, and I was fucking crying reading that. It was at least on like a personal impact level, easily the most memorable, most impactful thing that I've ever read from a newspaper writer. So I'm just throwing that in there.
Man, this is just such a day of learning. I did not know Nick had emotions.
I didn't either until I read that series.
That's really nice of you. I appreciate it.
And breaking news, Nick is also colorblind.
That's right, red-green colorblind.
Wow.
We're all learning new things here today.
What a day.
That's really nice of you to say, Nick. I appreciate it.
No, I think maybe I don't know if I wrote you or what or something, but yeah, ever since then I've been dying to meet you to say that.
Wow, well that's surprising. I didn't think anybody would remember that series particularly. But
so that's my next question, or really my only question before I hand this off to the real host of the real star of the show here.
I don't do shit here.
Where did it go? Because since you wrote it, it seems like it just disappeared at some point.
Yeah, no, I mean basically every newspaper, it seems like every 10 years or every 7 years redoes their technology system, whatever, and certain stories just get purged. So
got it. So it wasn't related to the release of the book, which I imagine had a lot of the same, not the same writing, but
yeah, it built on that. Yeah, no, it had nothing to do with that specifically. But then it turned out to be like my writing skeleton for the book. Yeah,
got it. Anyway, that's all I got.
Oh, well, está bien.
All right.
That was Fossey. Great.
I guess we're done here. We're all. I'm out of here. It's been great, guys. See you guys later. Carlos, man, I haven't seen you since Chugg's was open. The beginning of the thing.
Yep.
So March.
At the beginning of the thing, I remember we saw each other.
Right
by then. We were like, "Do we do the elbow?" I think we did what we did here.
Just what we elbowed.
We elbowed. I think maybe we had, maybe not. I don't know.
No, we did.
I can't remember. We did have.
Yeah, we did. I mean, it was a Chugg's was open, so it was a requirement, obviously, to wear a mask if you're in there working.
I forget because it was at the very beginning. It was at the very, very.
Yeah, I mean, Chug. There you go, Nick.
There it is.
Make sure it's still recording.
Yeah, don't worry.
God, you're all emotional and you're dropping things.
No,
like this is crazy.
Things are happening.
Colorblind, it's black. So, all right. Chugg's was one of the ones that didn't close. It was one of the only ones that didn't close because we just did like the takeout window. Right. We just got rid of all the seats. So we stayed open throughout, and then I saw you just like right at the beginning of the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then we've texted some and we've spoken on the phone some, but man, welcome to 2021.
Yeah, it's like I wrote the other day. I was like, it feels like December 37th, 2020. You know?
Yeah, that was January 6th, right?
Yeah. So we just like keep going. We keep going where we were. You know?
It was a continuation of 2020 for
Very
sure.
odd, man.
So, how are you?
Good, man. I've tried to stay busy. You know, like you guys. You know, in the sense that as you guys try to meaning the restaurant industry, as you guys pivot and try to like figure out what's next and how to stay in business and stay relevant. That's basically been my assignment. Is just like how is this industry that makes up such a large part of Miami kept afloat? How has it been able to keep people employed and keep chugging along? No pun intended. You know?
I like that pun. That's a good one.
You saw that?
That's a good one. I see what you did there.
That's free. That's free. Plugged for free.
Last time we did a podcast together, it was actually a different podcast, Tea Time with Mike and Mike. And, right?
Yeah.
And you came wearing your James Beard Award.
That's right.
Definitely. You just wanted to show me, I guess it was.
Yeah, it was a bit of a flex.
Yeah.
But look, it was very soon after. Give me a break.
Listen, if I had
Give me
one
a break.
too, I'd probably... I'd add it to my gold chain that my mom gave me. I would
right.
just wear it
Get it
all the time.
gold-plated and put it on
a...
a-
Be like, everyone would be like, why are you hunching over? I'm like, because my massive medal.
La medallona.
Yeah. I guess for people that don't know you, let's give them a little bit of context of like your background, you know, all the things that you've covered, because you haven't just covered food. So yeah, just a little bit of that.
Well, I think if you crawled up on top of this building, you could see where I was born, Mercy Hospital.
Oh yeah.
So like, you know, I definitely have my roots in Miami, you know, but I grew up in Broward, like right on the other side of the line there. And
It's a different line.
Oh my God!
Yeah, it's way different.
It's like our own little Mason-Dixon line.
Yeah.
And so I grew up there, and you know, feeling like I wanted to really be connected to my Cubanness, my Miami-ness, because all my, you know, obviously I'm the son of Cuban exiles, and all my family is down here in Miami, so it was like this longing to be connected with, like where it was happening, La Sabuesera, you know. And that
Welcome.
kind
We
of
accept you with open arms.
yeah. Well, I appreciate it, and that stayed with me for years, you know.
Yeah.
So it was always this thing of being hyper aware of trying to honor that, especially like the further you get from home, the closer you hold on to the things that make you who you are, you know.
It's interesting because like growing up here, living here forever, everything is just very like I'm very used to just things always being there.
Right.
Our very Cuban nature. In every corner, there's a cotadito and pastelitos and croquetas. And then I moved to Virginia when I was 17 for college. And I felt more Cuban than ever because it was none of our things. And I felt like I longed for that even more.
Yeah.
And as much as there was more distance between me and my culture, I became more close to it because I identified with it more because that was who I was, as a part to like this is just our community. You know what I mean? Because I was the only Cuban. I was the only guy from Miami. I was the only lot of things. So it's like up there, it's like, you know, you're either African American, white, or Mexican usually. So I remember when I got there and, you know, I started talking. They're like, "Boy, where are you from? You don't sound like you're from around here." I'm like,
boy is a two-syllable word.
Yeah, and I was like, "Well, because I'm not. You know, I'm from Miami." He's like, "Oh, you from Miami?" Like, "Yeah." It's like, "I'm Cuban." It's like, "Well, you don't look Mexican." I'm like, "Because I'm not. I'm actually Cuban."
Yeah.
What? So it's just like,
Yeah.
So I guess I wanted to like latch onto that even more because it was who I was.
Yeah. You've not been to Cuba, right?
I have not.
All right. When I felt, it's funny, when I went to Cuba as a reporter in 2006, I always say that I never felt as American as I have going to Cuba.
Oh yeah.
Because you realize that really the thing that you have in common is language. Because even the culture is very different.
Right.
And then when I came home, I never felt more Cuban.
Right.
Right? Because I'd been touched by that, you know?
Let me ask you, is it because the Cuba that we resonate with and what we grew up with is very different than what's currently there because of everything that's happened in the last 60 years.
Yeah, for sure. We made our own culture here. Miami is a culture created Cuba with Miami. You know, the old southern
Miami. I like that.
You got Miami and you got Miami.
Miami.
And they meet here. And so like that culture, the culture that we grew up with, even the Cuban culture is colored by the weather being a little bit different. Yeah. The food necessarily being different, you know?
Yeah.
So we grew up in like this pocket, this bubble that didn't change.
Nick always says a thing, the guy that you used to work with that just came recently from Cuba when you were at Cigar Snub, that he said like the food here was. You remember this whole conversation we had?
Yeah, I think you're referring to our Carluba's cousin, who was the art director, still is the art director at Cigar Snob magazine, and he would travel with me occasionally, working on travel stories for the magazine. So about every other month, we would go to some usually U.S. city and eat, smoke, and drink our way through it, and write about it later and pretend it was work.
That's a great
and almost invariably, because he had come in maybe 2012 at about 25, 26 years old, I would say. And of course, there's I'm dying to go to Cuba. For whatever reason, people hear you're Cuban, they tell you they've been dying to go to Cuba. And some people would say that they've been dying to go to Cuba to eat Cuban food. And the thing he would mention to them was that his favorite Cuban dish was croqueta preparada.
Yes.
And he ate it for the first time in Miami at 26 years old.
Yep.
I think that's the story you're talking about.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. I mean, there's no such thing as you can't find a Cuban sandwich.
Right.
The most common food in Havana, when I went, this is again 2006, was pizza.
What?
Yeah. The most common food in Cuba is pizza. It's simple. It's dough. They have an overly sweet tomato sauce. The cheese
that sounds
is
about as Cuban as you can get. Overly sweet.
The cheese is like a goat cheese. It's a very pungent. I'm not sure that it's goat, but it's a very pungent.
It's like a farmer's cheese.
Yeah,
so
it might be. It might be. They eat a lot of lamb. It might be lamb's milk for all I know. Like it's a really weird, strange, pungent, and I just was like, kind of. It took a long time, even by the time I left, where I.
Is that why you have such an affinity for making pizza at home?
Maybe. I think you're tapping something.
I am. I think I just made a connection for you that you didn't know that you had.
Look, pizza, number one, is the perfect food.
Whoa.
It really is.
Oh, I don't know about
Pizza's a perfect food.
Listen, I don't mind pizza.
Bread and cheese.
Yeah, I know, but that's also a sandwich. Listen, that's a big debate here.
That's a calzone.
Sandwiches.
A calzone is a sandwich. Is a
Whoa! Is a calzone a sandwich? Oh, my God.
I mean, it might be.
Nick, I don't know what to do with myself.
Carlos, you have no idea what you've done.
We've had just like a raging debate.
Let's just get this out of the way.
Okay.
Let's go round
Unpack it, Nick. Unpack it.
Let's define sandwich. I'm going to define sandwich as...
Everyone defines a sandwich right now.
Two pieces of bread that have been cut either from a loaf or from each other.
Okay.
And it is split on at least 3 sides, such that a pita is disqualified, but a sub that does not get cut all the way through is still in on the sandwich thing. However, if it's a single piece of dough that's been sealed all the way through, I would say a calzone. If an empanada is a hand pie, a calzone is some kind of pie.
Yeah, calzone is closer to a hand pie, but here's the question. Is a hand pie a sandwich?
Absolutely
Is an empanada a sandwich?
Not the way that I've just defined
because the bread goes all the way around?
Yeah, but they're also baked.
You're saying
it's
that
the dough is different.
There has to have been a cut somewhere in there.
The rule of the sandwich is that the bread can't be completely sealing the ingredients, is what you're saying.
I'm just saying that the bread needs to have been cut post-bake.
Because a pita's a sandwich if it's split open, like a little pita pocket.
At that point, you've made... Right. It has to be split on 3 sides.
Split on... no, but a pita pocket is a sandwich. Come on.
No.
Come on.
A pocket? A pita pocket's a pocket.
But it's round, so you can't. It doesn't have sides.
Oh, this is such an intense debate, and I love it.
It doesn't have sides.
I mean, in the way that, like, I'm saying 3 sides
wait,
in the way that a
let me ask you a
peninsula is
question,
surrounded
just
by water on 3 sides.
Per your
It's not,
distinction,
you know,
is a hot dog a sandwich?
a hot dog is a sandwich.
A hot dog is a hot dog, bro. We've already talked about that.
If a sausage sandwich with any other sausage is a sandwich, a hot dog has to be a sandwich.
But maybe the sausage sandwich is a hoagie.
Can I?
Which is a variety of sandwich, 3 sides.
Yeah, but calling it a sandwich seems like a racial slur to the hoagie.
It's a wrong year for that. Is a burger a sandwich?
Yes.
Yeah,
It's a burger.
In fact, if you look up hamburger, the definition is
You did
it
this
is a
already.
sandwich.
You did it already, didn't you?
I did it with
know
JR
you did. I know
earlier.
you did. But let me ask you a question. So, for instance, my frita, I don't cut all the way through.
That's fine, but it's not a pocket.
That's correct.
It's on 3 sides.
This has been a raging debate. Let me
Yeah.
ask you a question. Do you know what a foldie is?
A foldie?
Yeah.
No. I don't know what that is.
I thought you were
think it's
making
only
this up,
fat
but
kids that
but
know
I
what
looked it
foldies
up.
But I want to know what that is now.
I think fat kids are the only ones that know
The
what
only
foldies
people
are.
defining this online are the fattest people on Urban Dictionary. Because it does exist, but I thought you were making it up.
No, it doesn't.
explain,
it does exist.
Explain to me the foldie. What
All
is
right,
it?
so look. All right. So you are in the moment that you are creating a sandwich. Mm-hmm. You have all your sandwich preparation in front of you. Mm-hmm. You have your loaf of bread, whatever you choose. You have your protein. You have your cheese. You have your schmear. And you may even add vegetables. It depends what your flavor is. I don't know. Right? So you walk into making this sandwich. You're walking in hungry. That's what's happening. You're walking into the situation hungry. Right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
God. The angel from above, Emma, brings round 2.
Very
And
nice.
so at that point, you're hungry.
You know what? I will have one of those.
Oh, now we're talking.
I
Now
will
things
have
go
one
off
of
the
those.
rails, and I love it.
That was a rum Negroni. Are you a...
No, he's a rum guy. Come on.
Yeah, yeah, for
He's a
sure.
rum
That
guy.
sounds great.
Perfect.
That actually sounds really good.
So, as an appetizer, you grab a piece of bread, you smear some stuff in it, you put a little protein, you fold it, and you eat it while you're building your sandwich so you can do it comfortably, in your own time, and make it to the spec that you would like to make it.
Is a foldie a taco?
No, it's a foldie. It's not a taco. What distinguishes a taco is the fact that you're using a tortilla.
Yes. Okay.
I did see an interesting, I forget where this was. I really should have saved all this. I will write a full report. I saw
On the
someone
next
refer to a
op-ed on
foldie.
DADE Mag.
I saw someone referring to a foldie as a half sandwich, which was a very interesting category to me.
If you let it go, it's open faced. It's an open face.
Right.
But at that point, it's a tartine.
Oh. Yeah, because an open face sandwich is not a sandwich.
Tell me about...
mis-
Well, it's a hot brown a sandwich.
It's like crab with a K, like the K crab.
Yeah, that's not crab.
So
Yeah,
open
but
face
is a
sandwich-
hot brown a Kentucky hot brown a sandwich?
I don't know what that is.
A Kentucky hot brown is like
Is it like a horseshoe?
it's an open face sandwich that's got like I don't remember the exact protein, but I believe it's like turkey and then it's gravy on top. It's a tartine.
Yeah. Kentucky hot. I've had a hot brown.
Yeah, how was it?
Cagalera times 1,000.
Empingao.
Oh man,
Empingation.
that was like that's what you eat after enough bourbons that you make all the wrong decisions.
Well, yeah,
about
it's
what you're
usually
eating.
it's after bourbon and Kentucky makes sense, right?
Yeah, actually, I had one. I had my hot brown at where is the Kentucky Derby? What's the track?
Oh, I don't know.
God. Yeah, the horse racing track where they do the Derby.
Yeah, I don't know.
Whatever.
Rich people
It's,
go to horse races.
It's not just for rich people. Come on. Anyway, I'll insert audio of myself saying the name of the place. but-
Colorblind Nick.
That's right. And also my glasses are fogging with this mask, but so I don't see colors or anything. And then just to round out the sandwich portion,
Okay.
fill the audience and Carlos in on our last podcast discussion about and your follow-up conversations that I have not been filled in on regarding the bu'e.
All right. This is intense. So I have one of my chefs. She is from the UK. She's like very English, heavy accent. You don't understand anything she says.
She calls you love.
Yeah, she doesn't call me love. That's for sure. She was walking by, and we're having this foldie conversation, and I was like, "Ash, is a foldie a sandwich?" And she says, "No, it's a bu'e. It's a buddy, right?"
Buddy.
So then Nick goes into his YouTube rabbit hole of things, and a buddy is completely different. Go on, Nick.
Yeah, so you were asking her whether she knew what a foldie was. You described a foldie to her, and she said, "Oh, that's a butty," and then she clarified, "Butty." So, saying that it was like
a butty,
saying that it was like like a butt. So I looked this up. Apparently, a butty is neither folded nor like a butt. It's a sandwich on buttered bread, and you got all kinds of butties, including what apparently is a very popular one, the chip buddy, which is just a buttered French fry sandwich, which sounds like a great idea when you are
But
messed
she won't
up.
call it a French fry. They're chunk chips. Listen,
Chunk
I had this whole
steak
conversation
fry.
with her yesterday also.
So for her, a chunk chip buddy is a steak fry sandwich on buttered bread.
Yeah.
But
it's not a fry either because they're short. I'm telling you, there's a lot here.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah,
but it's not. But it's. I just want to clarify because the last episode
more like a home fry.
Yeah, we were conflating buddies and foldies, and I don't want our listeners to travel to the UK and ask for foldies, think they're going to get a buddy and look like idiots.
But I think Carlos everyone's had a good point. It's a half sandwich, just folded in half. And then
I'm comfortable with half sandwich.
It's really a tartine that you fold.
That sounds.
Avocado toast is a tartine.
To involve the word tartine sounds like the efforts of a fat person to dignify what they're doing in this process.
That's the French person going, it's not a butty, it's not a foldy, it's a tartine.
Yeah, that's... Man, we're going to use that audio forever now. You have no idea. That's going to be...
No. Mike, you are talking about the foldy and the body and...
Oh, man.
These are all ridiculous things. The tartine.
That's incredible. We have reached a whole other level of amazing here on this podcast.
We'll use his tartine.
I haven't even had a drink yet, so cheers.
Cheers. This is my drink of choice. This is what I drink.
Oh, it's delicious.
This is the only drink I drink, actually.
I really love that. I'm not usually a fan of... This is a Negroni?
Yeah.
But with rum.
Yes. Dark rum.
I like that better.
Yeah.
I'm not usually a fan of Negronis.
I always just put rum in my cocktails. That's just the way I roll.
Funny rum story. So I did this story just kind of for shits and giggles. Making a vegan coquito.
Oh, yeah.
I made a vegan coquito, which in and of itself is a whole controversial conversation. I was like, I had Bacardi white rum. I used Bacardi white rum. So like today in the mail, I get a box. I open up, it's 4 bottles of Don Q.
Oh yeah,
Puerto Rican rum.
Of course.
Because I got a note from like the Don Q person, like, hey, I saw your story. That was really cool. You should really try it with the actual Puerto Rican rum.
Welcome to the influencer.
Oh, no. That's terrible. But I've not posted a picture of it.
Good for you. That's good.
I'm also not making money on the side, which that's
oh, man. Let me tell you.
Mark of the influencer.
I don't know if you've heard the episode with Larry Carino, but that was quite intense.
Oh, I need to get to that one. I haven't heard it yet.
That was it was quite an intense conversation. And I think it'll lead to some of the things that we talk about now, which is like journalism, media, the influencer world, and especially the way that the world has changed in the last year and how that will continue to change is just astronomical, right? So I'm going to reference the shirt that you're wearing. Support local journalists, right? I don't know what the bottom says, but
it says
buy them a beer.
Buy them beer.
Well, I bought you a drink. We're equal.
Yeah, for sure.
Me personally, I subscribe to I have digital subscriptions to 4 different journalism things.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a real unique thing nowadays. I mean,
well,
really is.
I think in my mind, I don't care for the influencer. I care for the journalist because I feel like I'd rather hear a story than see a post.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
I'd much rather hear a podcast than watch Bite. What was it? Bite for Bite, Nick? Bite for Bite? Yeah, Bite for Bite just hit me up for Bite for Bite just hit me up for a collaboration.
You got to do the dance like.
Yeah, no, it was like they were like, we've had so many inquiries about your place and we would love to collaborate. And then I just sent a screenshot to Larry and I was like, would you like to collaborate with these people? And I'd much rather hear a story like the story you wrote about in Manicero, right?
I did not write in Manicero.
Who
What are you
wrote that?
talking about? I don't know. That was not me, though. Can't take credit for that. Although I would like to write about it, Manicero.
The guy in Little Havana that sells all the peanuts?
Yeah, I have not written about that guy. But I do want to.
Man.
If somebody did,
You don't remember that piece?
we'll give them some props, whoever they were.
There was an article about in Manicero that was in the Herald, too. In Little Havana.
It's possible. That was not
Maybe
me.
it was just a piece on Little Havana, and then he was in it.
Oh, maybe. That might have been it.
Yeah, maybe because he's been there for 20 years, easily. So maybe it was just a piece on the neighborhood. But things like that tell more of like a human interest story, things that connect to a community, and also restaurants that connect to a community as a part to just like, we went to this place, we didn't pay for anything, we ate these things, and then we gave them a 7 out of 10. I don't know. Like shit like that doesn't interest me.
Yeah. I mean, I think journalism, it's very clear, right? Like, it's a product that has no interest other than serving the reader. You pay for it. That's the journalism. The influencer is an advertising. It's advertising and marketing.
But as much as I agree with you, I also disagree with some of that. Because, for instance, in the arenas that we like communicate, because we do communicate through other arenas other than text and talking, when you look at some of the other food editors around the country that have a lot of influence, the stuff that they say on, let's say, Twitter is more self-serving than it is actual information about the world. For instance, people from Food and Wine, the editor from Food and Wine, the editor from Bon Appetit, which that's a train wreck in and of itself, and other prominent editors more talking about how dare you go out to eat because of how dangerous it is, instead of talking about there's a lot of people doing some really special things. And I think that's where it seems more self-serving because a lot of people listen to them on whatever platform they're on as a part to this is factual information and this is what's happening. I think that the world has become so kind of like fuzzy. You know what I'm saying? Like there is no line. Like there's editors that hang out with influencers, not you. There's other ones that hang out with influencers and they go to dinner together. And then what is that table really doing? Like what's happening at that dinner? You know what I'm saying? And I think that's why you and I have always gotten along so well, because I respect the work that you do and what you've done in the past. And I also respect the fact that you don't put yourself in that situation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, you have to have a line. I mean, you have to line. You and I have never. I've never gone to your house and had dinner. We've never gone because I think you have to. You know, you can be always friendly with people. You know, but you can't. If people that buy my newspaper are to value what I give them, they have to know that I'm not compromised. That I'm not getting anything for free. That I'm not. My life is not bettered in some quiet, unseen way because of the stories that I write. There's no agenda other than serving the reader. And my idea is, that's always what I think about is, how do I best serve the reader? And by that I mean telling them about what restaurants are doing different. People still want to eat out. They don't want to, like, not everybody cooks. Not everybody even wants to cook.
Oh, no, that's for sure.
So you give them options. You give them ideas that I feel, in that sense, that I do feel comfortable with. In other words, everything that I put out, I feel comfortable doing. I've not gone out to a restaurant. People love Mustangs until they drive by you.
I know.
I guess it's better to be in one.
I'm more of a cruiser guy. We've talked about this.
Yeah. What was I saying? Before we were so rudely interrupted by 427 horsepower or whatever.
That you want your reader to feel like you're not compromised.
Yes. Like they know that like it's almost like being an elected official in the sense that like they vote for me, they vote with their money.
That's a loaded in and of itself.
Yes, that is.
Statement.
That is.
Yeah.
But they vote with their money. They pay and say, I want your product because I feel like I know where it's coming from and this is what it's worth to me. And they can cancel at any time, which you can't with a politician.
Sadly.
Yeah. And I feel like that's something that you get with journalism.
Yeah.
An influencer, you're talking about advertising. You're saying someone who's got such a high profile that if I put my product next to them, it creates a mental image.
Yeah, but it's also like you can, if I were to buy an ad for a magazine, and I think Nick could speak about this more, I know how many of those issues are going out on a quarterly basis, yeah?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, I think that with magazines, what you have is that often they're audited.
Yeah.
And so you have third parties verifying some of that information, newspapers as well. However, there maybe is a little more transparency on data, or there can be with social media, because the creator, even the small-time creators, have so much access to their own metrics that you wouldn't if you were just somebody distributing like a small-time community newspaper or something. The degree to which even just your average, even somebody who's not seeking to, has access to those metrics is pretty impressive.
But the influencer can buy followers.
They can, but you can even, there are tools out there in the market for checking out how many of a person's followers are
I know.
fake.
How many people know about those tools?
I think a lot of the people who are spending money there know about them.
I would doubt that.
But,
I don't have any of those tools.
well, it's not a matter of having them. It's just like, there's just websites that you go and you plug in somebody's handle and it tells
It's a
you.
lot of work.
I mean, you put more work into other things.
That's true.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
I was holding my ball tickler because
To me, influencers are like flyers. Like you go to your car, you get a flyer in your car.
Yeah, come to my
Same
club.
thing.
Right.
It's like, oh, all right. This I am now aware of this.
Free lunch at
I have
Scarlett's.
no measurement for how legitimate this is, other than it exists in the universe.
Well, so I'll make a comment that I'd be interested to hear your feedback on that I made with Larry, and then also ask a question. So, on the last podcast, we released, which was Larry Carino. By now, we might have put out the Dave Arvelo one. My comment was that I'm bothered by the term influencer, period, because in general, before the rise of influencerdom, the medium didn't make the practice, right? So you were doing advertising, whether you were doing it online or you were doing it on television or in print, or you were a publicist, whether your network was primarily in broadcast or whatever. Influencer, I think, is a term that really only serves to blur the lines to the benefit of the shysters who are not being transparent about the transactional aspect of how content ends up in their feeds. So that's one thing. And then just for the sake of not interrupting the thing again, you were talking earlier about, the differences between journalism and the influencer class and all that. You're sort of in the unique position, not unique, I'm sure there's somewhere else in the world there's somebody in a similar position, but having come from sports, you have experience that a lot of people in food don't have, right? Where a lot of people who are covering food, even if they're all kinds of ethical, are dealing with small businesses where the person on the other end maybe doesn't have that experience or doesn't have somebody on their payroll whose job it is to know some of that stuff. In sports, you're dealing with massive organizations a lot of the time. So I wonder whether how useful you found that when you got into food. Because in sports, that's a less unique experience, but in food, you have a lot of people who, the people they're covering, don't know the rules.
Right.
So those are the two things. My comment there on being upset with the term, and also just what it was for you to go from sports to food, and how useful that was, and whatever else.
Well, I think, you bring up a good point. I mean, I've been a sports writer. I was published at 19, writing about sports, and I did that up until 2009, I want to say, and so it was a career, and the way that it's become is that each athlete is their own individual business.
For sure.
If you have 25 guys on a baseball roster, each one of those is a small to medium-sized business. When I stopped covering it, the major league minimum was like $374,000 for the kid just called up. So like a year. So there's businesses that make that. That's a restaurant. A really small restaurant. So that's kind of how you see it. But then you have this public relations control arm that is over the team and then over each individual. Frankly, I got tired of it, man. I got tired of cutting through so many layers to write about the people underneath. And the truth is, people just generally just want to know about the sport. they're semi-interested in the person and whatever. But I felt like, and I said this actually when I won the James Beard Medal, like I felt like when I was given the acceptance, I said, I never saw my writing make as much of a difference and draw as much of a reaction as when I started writing about food. Because I was writing about real people who are ignored, who are overlooked in the sense. You go to your favorite restaurant, but you don't think that you don't even think about the chef that's in the back cooking or the long, interminably long process that the food took to get to your plate from the people who picked it in what country and what their status was to where you are paying. And I felt like when I write about food, there are many more stories to tell in one dish. So that's why I've enjoyed it so much more.
I think it's interesting that the whole like arena of food has changed dramatically in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
And I think it's changed for the better and in some ways for the worse, but it all depends which perspective you look at it through. I think for the better because people are more aware of what it takes to put food on their plate and to execute the food at the level in which a lot of people execute it at. And I think they're just more aware.
Are we done with celebrity chefs?
What are those?
Are we done with them? Are we done with...
But what...
You know what they are.
No, I know I can care less about them. Honestly, my favorite celebrity chef right now is Guy Fieri. He's my favorite celebrity chef because during the pandemic, no one did more for community than that guy did. No one raised more money. No one supported the community more. No one was as open as possible as that guy was. And I can tell you from first-hand experience, I talked more shit about that guy than anyone under the fucking sun. And I will admit when I was fucking wrong. And I was wrong. Because while all the other celebrity chefs that I have a lot of their fucking books and their food is nice and all this shit, while a lot of them tail between their legs, tuckered under and fucking didn't do dick, that guy did a bunch. And I will say that I was wrong.
I mean, there's
celebrity chefs to me is just like celebrity in general. Like, celebrity in general is all what you make of it. Like, when I used to play sports, essentially, everyone puts their fucking cleats on the same way. And I will line up with whoever. It doesn't matter what status you have, All-American. I will line up the same way, and I will treat you the same way I treated the fucking practice squad guys that I played against all week. That's how it is. And I will never say that I think you're astronomically better than me. That's a mentality that I'll never adopt. So for me, the celebrity chef thing is what media makes of it. You know what I'm saying? It's like now you being, in essence, the head of Miami food media, right? Because the Miami Herald is essentially what that is. Everything we're seeing now is nothing but New York, Chicago, the West Coast, all coming to Miami. Yeah. And I hate to remind people, for years and years and years, we were the redheaded stepchild. Miami wasn't that. Miami was not the location. People don't understand. The clientele isn't there. Blah, 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 bullshit. So now the celebrity chefs want to come back, right? Because they've all failed here several times over. So now they want to come back. The big names want to come back. You know why? Because their economies are fucking closed. This goes back to politics. This isn't because they think we're great. So I think that for the media, influencers, which they'll never give a fuck because they only care about who pays them, and diners in essence, and I love, and it enamors me that behind you I see a bunch of people eating in my restaurant because I am nobody in the major food world. I remind the diner, they said that we weren't good enough before. So now we're good enough only because we're open. And that's essentially the root of it. That is the root of it.
I mean, there's two things at play, right? Like there is politics and there's health and safety.
Oh yeah.
And it's tough when the people who make the policy are dependent on either whether people that make the health and safety politics are dependent on the politics, on the re-elections and such.
Yeah.
It makes it incredibly difficult to know what is true. So, like, what is a job like mine like? So I listen to even like our health reporters, who are talking to like experts, and then saying, how does that apply to what you know and what those experts have written about restaurants? So literally, my thing is just like a conduit. Grab it. What is it? What are you saying? How does it make sense? Put it together in a way that's understandable and get it to the reader. And the reader has to make that choice.
Correct.
But then in the middle of that process, there's cognitive dissonance. There's noise, or one way or the other. Either certain things that are emphasized and certain things that are de-emphasized by local, state, national government. I mean, for God's sake, there's no national policy for how we approached coronavirus.
I know.
Right? I mean, we can all agree that there's no national mask mandate. There's no, even things that are, you and I are sitting about, 8-10 feet apart.
Right.
And we've agreed that we're going to do it outside because we read.
Right.
And we read like, oh, here's a study that was done and here's how they did it. And like, that's the role of media. That's the role of journalism.
Right.
Is to cut through that.
You know what? When we reopened DADE, which has now been reopened now for about a month, I did a thing with NBC, I think. It was with Roxy. She's a dear friend, and I've known her since I was like in high school.
We're both PACE graduates.
Oh, yeah?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
She's amazing. And it was just like a quick 2-minute thing. And her question was, with everything going on, which is like the rise in cases, the rise in this, the X, Y, and Z, why do you feel the need, or why do you feel like you have to reopen? I said, because I need to survive. There is no one providing for me in the meantime, and no one providing for my staff in the meantime. So it's a difficult decision, but at the end of the day, my employees, they still need to get paid, and it was one of those things that I told her we follow the rules in which we should follow, that we are told that we should follow, and we do them to the T, and otherwise, we have no choice, because if not, DADE will not reopen.
How different would it have been for you if the government said, these places are the places where you are most at risk for getting it. So everybody in those businesses has to close, and we're going to pay everybody to stay home. Everybody in those businesses has got to go home. You, the chef, and everybody cooking. And you're going to stay, and everybody's going to stay home for, listen to the science, 6 weeks.
Yeah.
That it takes, the bill comes in, you get the thing, and it goes, or not even, it goes right to the, how much different would your decision have been? Do I have to reopen? What do I have to do? What things are in place? Versus the government saying, we understand that you cannot close indefinitely without becoming homeless and unemployed.
Yeah,
stay home. Here's money to stay home until we've reached a level where this thing is passed. It would have been different.
So there's two answers to that question. There's the personal answer and there's the professional one. Professionally, I would have said, yeah, that's cool. Everyone goes home, they do their thing. We're getting provided for, so we can close because they believe that this is the best thing for the thing. Me personally, I don't know, I am a workaholic, so I don't know if I can sit at home for 6 weeks. You know what I mean? I would still be here doing things, doing something. But I'm also the owner. So A lot of times, and people don't like to believe this, but a lot of times the government provides for others and doesn't really provide for the ownership. And I've seen a lot of that, and that's okay. I'm totally fine with that, because at the end of the day, the people make the place don't make the people. And I've said that through and through a million times, because my employees are what makes this restaurant and these restaurants special. I can only help direct traffic. So, yeah, it would have been different. But at the end of the day, that's not what happened.
Right.
That has not been what's happened. That is not what has happened in the past, and we haven't had that luxury. So we have had to try to provide for ourselves and for the people and for our employees. Because, I mean, it's been a rough 12 months.
Yeah. No, I can't even imagine. Like, I'm looking at it from the outside. So, like, to me, what's always been admirable is how everybody pivoted in a way that followed the rules, right? And, like, still made sense. But, like, first thing, like, people weren't closed 2 weeks before restaurants were selling groceries. Like, they pivoted to groceries. And everybody was takeout and delivery. And now they were doing, they were putting employees to deliver, figuring out whether they could be delivery drivers.
Yeah.
And if your restaurant wasn't used during the day, now you were renting it out during the day to a pop-up that was going to open from 8 to noon till 2 before you took over and cleaned and started your regular shift. Like, that to me was the most interesting thing to write about, because that's like human endurance, you know?
I think, if nothing else, the industry showed how scrappy it really is. I mean, this one, obviously I'm particular to this one, because I know this one the best, but I mean, the scrappy nature, the relentless attitude, the passion, the things. And, I don't think people can really understand, and I've talked a lot about this the last, 10 days, because I think in 2021 we're going to see the effect of this more. And I tell you because you write about us, right? The mental health aspect of 2020 will take effect in 2021. The toll that it took on so many people to prevail through it, to fight through it. The fight, and it's very admirable. You fight and you do the things, but it wears on so many. And I've seen it, and I've been there for, my people, and myself included. I am not immune to the thing. Like, I have seen the toll that it's taken, and it will continue to be so. And then the thing is just like everything else in our industry. It's like, well, just make sure you cook my food right. This is so much deeper than that. And the effect of this, forget about financial, because money comes and goes. I'm the worst person when it comes to money, because I'm just like, whatever. It's a thing we created, right? But in essence, the mental aspect of all this will carry over to 2021, and we will see it affect 2021 more so. And it's like the depth of it, and how it's like really taking a toll on many in the industry. Because I don't think people are at the place that they're not trying to be better. I think they're just worn the fuck out, man.
Well, see, that's what we can't forget, is that we still lived last year. We still had lives. We still had personal losses. We still had people lost their jobs. They got new jobs. They had the stresses. Your kid went to college for the first time. Your kid started high school.
That all happened to you, right?
Well, mine didn't start high school, but a buddy of mine took his daughter to Gainesville in late August.
That's crazy.
And I'll say
Gator,
that,
I'm sorry.
And I'll say that no. No empiece
I was
con
waiting
la
for that.
cosita, because
I was waiting for that.
Because in our adult lifetimes, I covered 3 national championships.
I mean,
that's all I'm saying.
How many ex-convicts are on those 3 national championships? Anyways, let's continue about food.
So, not to get too far into it, but last year I lost my father.
Yeah.
People might not know my father was 92 years old, and he would have been 93 November, but a year earlier my mom had passed away, and he was going to move in with me. And we'd started making plans, and we'd had permits pulled to build onto my house, and he was still kind of hadn't gotten used to moving away from his house, and we'd stop in and visit. And on February 29th, so 2 weeks before the world changed for everyone.
Oh yeah.
In the coronavirus sense, my dad went back to his house, and and he was shot and killed by a neighbor. And that's a thing that we've all had to deal with in the last year.
Right.
And like 2 weeks later, I came to work, and the world had changed, and we had to start writing about how our world is different now.
Right.
So that happened to other people post the pandemic beginning. So didn't have funerals. I was able to, we were able to bury my father and have a funeral, and that I'm sure that people went through things like that in a very isolated way. People lost some. I know that you had a close friend who took his life, and all those things. We had a complete, fully lived emotional world last year. Plus, we're all fighting for our health and our livelihoods,
Well, I think, a lot of part of human life, and I'm only speaking for myself because I only know my own, is like when you go through grief or struggle, you have a safety net in something, right? It could be with people, it could be with family, it could be with having a casual drink with a friend, it could be drinking too much, it could be working too much, it could be whatever it is. But whatever your thing was is now probably gone.
Yeah.
And that's what we lived for a long time. Yep. A really, really long time. And I saw, the team was still fairly large, like during the whole thing. And I saw so many of my people go through internal struggle. And I tried to be there for all of them as much as I could. But it's a lot. And it was a lot because there was no avenue in which to expel that energy, to get it all out into the world. Mm-hmm. And that's why understanding that we still lived life during a fucked up time is astronomical. It's just everyone that, and we're 10 days deep in the new year, and it's like, well, 2021 is going to be all this. Listen, dude, it's still going to be a fucking struggle. Sit down, be an adult, and realize we're still going to struggle through it. But have an understanding of what we just went through and just try to make it better. Don't think just because it's a new number, it's going to change. We're still living through the same things. We're living through a presidential change that's a fucking nightmare in and of itself. We're living through politics that none of it makes any fucking sense. We're living through a time that it's it seems somewhat unprecedented. And at the same time, we're just trying to, survive. And I also had this reflection earlier today. Because I keep on saying it, and I was writing something for Nick earlier. It's the idea of survival. But when you're surviving, you're not living. You're not living who you want to be. Because you're just trying to survive. And I think there's an emptiness in all that we've all tried to work through. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And everyone always talks the fucking bullshit about Miami. Is because Miami and Billy is number one for that. But it's really all over the fucking country, man. It's all over the country that people are just trying to be who they want to be. And it's they don't know where to put it right now. You know what I'm saying?
So let's turn the topic to some interesting things. I'm curious to get your thoughts on. There's a restaurant that's going to open in Miami eminently. I don't know when.
Oh, I can't wait to hear this one.
Eminently, that's billing itself as a Chinese restaurant. They're calling itself
Los Chinos.
Los Chinos. Los Chinos.
Yeah.
Nobody on that who conceived of the idea is Chinese. Their idea was I used to remember, sitting around with my family on Sunday and saying, let's go to Los Chinos. Which, if you're, I hate to say it, but if you're Cuban in Miami, when you said Los Chinos, it was let's go to any Asian place.
Right.
The Pan-Asian place, whatever. Right. So it's it begins with a mentality, a stereotype. And now you're calling the restaurant Los Chinos, and all the preview advertising is blonde white lady with a rice hat, and a guy, a shirtless guy, yeah. A shirtless tanned, Lothario with a samurai sword, and it says a warrior will rise. And it's all this, look, and it's all this blatant moronic, racial
Yeah, I know.
appropriation,
I know.
and it drives me insane.
Listen,
And we're giving them free advertising, so I apologize, but it's like
No,
I don't
you're not
wanna-
giving it. Listen,
I'm not going to write about that place because to me that place is a Disneyland, right? It's just like a fake Disney World thing sold to the masses. And it's on top of that, it's imagine if the place was called Los Negros. Vamos pa Los Negros.
that wouldn't work. It's not.
It's not the same.
Listen,
it's not the same.
Well, hold on. Listen, I don't disagree with him that it's kind of the same. You need to get on your Baltic.
Because here's why I think it's the same. Because if your family tradition was to go to the local Jamaican place and you said, "Vamos pa Los Negros, vamos a comer con los negros," and people do,
but in a certain way, you're putting words in their mouth. Because now you've taken Jamaican and you've applied to it a racial thing.
No, but
they're not saying "vamos a los" and then a skin tone signifier. They're saying "lo chino." And I forget where I read this, but the explanation that I read was that it was a reference to "lo chino," as in Chinatown in Havana.
No. They may be trying to rewrite that now. But
I mean, I forget. This was a while ago, and that may very well be what it is.
I got the PR.
But I'm saying,
mention for it, and I was like, "Hey, can you call me because this new restaurant you're telling me about it sounds like super racist? Will you call me because I need to understand like what?" And the truth is,
and it may very well be, but it's different
from
from saying Jamaican and then let's go to Los Negros.
But look, let's talk about what it is.
It's more like let's go to Los Jamaiquinos. Now, if you're saying if you're saying let's go to the Bahamian restaurant and let's go to Los Jamaiquinos, okay, that's more of an analog.
I just have one statement because this is good. I don't want to interject. I personally would never name a restaurant Lo Chino. Just saying. I also wouldn't name it Lo Cubano or Lo Jamaiquino. I wouldn't do that. But that's because I find that a name should mean more.
I agree. It's
a dumb name.
Right. I think anybody can agree it's shitty branding.
It starts with a stereotype, which is something that Cubans say. One of the guys is Cuban American. Something that Cubans say, and Latins will say, is especially. I can only speak for Cubans and say, "Vamos pa los chinos," and it starts like that.
But the problem that I see is that you're taking what a lot of Cubans would say, and you're saying, and that's what they're doing. We're talking about a specific set of people.
And they are exactly doing that.
But do they have Thai and Vietnamese?
We'll find out. But they got
but that's what I'm saying. So we'll find out. If it's that we'll find out, it can't be we'll find out, and that's exactly what they're doing. Either they're doing it, or we'll find out whether it's what they're doing.
Do you want to defend them?
No, I'm not defending the name.
Devil's advocate.
I'm not defending them. No, hold on.
Man,
I'm saying
you're new to Nick.
You can issue criticisms, and they can be worth criticizing, and there can still be a way to criticize them that pins unfair things on them. It can be stereotypes. It can be all of these things. But if we don't know whether it goes beyond the Chinese, right, beyond Chinese cuisine or Chinese Cuban cuisine, if that's what they're trying to sell it as, if they're actually going to stick to this Chinatown and Havana thing or whatever, I don't think it's fair unless we know what's on the menu to say that, to pin on them this broad idea of, well, a lot of people, like, there's this thing in the ether where people will say Lo Chino when they don't mean Chinese.
What?
Until we see that they're doing that, I don't want to go out and say that's what they're doing.
Okay, they're not doing that. What they're doing is using every stereotype iconography to sell their product.
That's 100% true.
Every single stereotype iconography to sell their product.
Now,
the same way that if a restaurant opened and they would call that Los Cubanos in Minneapolis, and that's how they would say it, Los Cubanos.
They would sell guacamole.
And they would just think about everything Latin, and they would say, you know, like that would hurt. And there was a place that I know that had a big picture of Che Guevara because people.
Oh, the one in D.C. that I walked into when I was drunk, and I told them to go fuck themselves.
Think about how hurtful that is. We don't have a large enough Chinese population in Miami to get out into the streets with pitchforks like they did on the D.C. Capitol.
In all fairness, I was driving around D.C. in a little scooter, and I had a couple drinks, and I saw this menu, and I was with Pastelito Papi himself and Alex Gilardi, one of my former employees and a great person that he runs Lazy Oyster. If you ever want oysters at home, please hit him up. And
I've been looking at that place. I'm very curious about the Lazy
Oyster.
Oyster.
Be curious about Alex. He does good work.
Be curious.
Be curious about him. I just walked in, and Alex was like, "No, chef, don't do it. It's not worth it." And I walked in, and I was like, first of all, motherfuckers, guacamole is not Cuban. Secondly, Che Guevara can go suck a dick because this motherfucker is a piece of shit. And I walked out.
But again, this.
But
Go
think
on,
about
Nick.
think about that feeling. That feeling right there.
I understand.
just-
I'm not disagreeing with the thing.
But
I'm
it's not. But it's
I'm
not the same.
I think we're both
But
fighting
it's
with
not
Nick.
the
I think that's
same.
what we're saying.
It's not the same
both
because
fighting with
that
Nick,
that
is
would
what
be like if you were a Chinese
There's no
American.
way. Listen,
it's
I
not-
get what you're saying. If they open up and there's just Chinese items on the menu, then I get it.
Hold on, and then
But
the
even
Che Guevara
still-
thing. The Che
even
Guevara thing
still.
is more like if you were a Chinese American person and you walked into a Chinese restaurant with a bunch of fucking Mao posters on the walls. Now you're injecting
now
a certain
it's bad
political
territory.
aspect. To me, it's more like if you are selling Cuban food under the name Guajiros. Does it matter if you're Cuban and playing on Cuban stereotypes? Oh, all these,
Are you mad if they have guacamole on the menu?
That's a separate question.
Oh man, because
That's a separate question.
I am
No,
pissed.
for me, it's enough to use the racial iconography. Like, you know what? What if the guy on the poster had big buck front teeth? Like,
But he doesn't. That's a what if. Let's not do what if.
You're right, but it's bad enough because we decide where to draw the line, and the truth is,
So
there's
here's
it's just
so here's
about
the
where you
question:
put it.
unless you have Chinese ancestry, are you not allowed to do Chinese food?
I don't think if you're Chinese, you call your place Los Chinos.
That's not the question, because you're talking about iconography now, not just
Yeah.
the name.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you are not Chinese and you have Chinese food, do you have to stay away from certain typefaces, from certain motifs in your decor? Do you have to stay away from everything Chinese? Because at some point, what we're asking for is for every restaurant, unless you can take a 23andMe test to look like it's a Hilton hotel, because
No.
God
I'm
forbid
talking,
you should
I'm talking about,
come close to certain
no,
iconography.
I'm talking about using race as a costume. That's what I'm talking
I know.
about.
No, I know exactly. We
That's
had this
it.
whole conversation.
Yeah,
on
yeah,
Twitter.
yeah. We had it online, which is now it's great to have it in
and so
person.
and so my question is.
So what I'm
love
saying
it.
is,
So
where is the
excuse
line?
myself.
No. I'm not gonna project. I'm gonna say here's what I know. I know that right now,
So good.
that restaurant is using race as a
So
costume.
here's okay. Let's suppose
and that to me
if,
is
if Mike opens a
is
Chinese
so
concept,
offensive that I'm not willing to give it a second. I'm not willing to look at what they try
and
to
that's
do
fine.
next.
And that's fine. If Mike opens a Chinese, let's not put Mike. If Chef
Let's
X,
not use Mike.
If Chef X, who is not Chinese and who cannot trace their ancestry to China, opens a Chinese concept, do they have to stay away from, for example, using bamboo placemats? Are they not allowed to use certain typeface? Because at some, like, where is the line of how far can you go before you've begun to use? And I'm not going to say race because it's not a racial thing; it's a cultural thing as
No,
a
it's
costume.
Okay, I think it's race number one.
Well, because
And-
a rice patty hat is not a race.
No,
So that's
no.
that's a cultural practice. It's
I don't know anything about it. I don't know anything about a rice hat other than in every movie when they want to tell you that somebody's Chinese, they put a rice hat on them.
But also,
Like,
there are
you
Chinese
know-
people in rice patties who wear rice patty hats.
Okay, but that's fine. But
It's a
but that's
a
not what
guayabera.
they're,
There are white people and black people
but
who
that's
wear
not
guayaberas.
why that first photo is a reference of that. That photo is look, it's a Chinese place. Look, yeah, easily,
get it.
It's like we're opening a Mexican place, and it's called Los Paco. It's called Paco's, and the first photo is a blonde girl with a big sombrero.
No, I get it. But
Super
what I'm saying is,
offensive.
where is the line? Right?
Well,
because
I know that
how-
right
how
now
much can you
they're over it.
and I'm asking where it is.
I guess we have to see it. Like,
Well, but you have to know
who
where it
was-
is to know they're over it.
Who was the Supreme Court justice who says, obscenity? I see it when I know it when I see it.
Which is an awful way to judge cases.
It's an awful way to judge.
So let's actually draw the line. Instead of
Okay.
if you're saying you're judging the case by a way that you're acknowledging is an awful way to judge the case, where is the line? How much Chinese-esque stuff can you do before you cross the line? Because look, this is
I
the
think
person
if
I had in mind when we did this on Twitter, and I'll just say it now. Pablo Zitzman. Pablo Zitzman's typefaces, his menu, all of these things are evocative of a very specific culture. Do you have the same problem with Pablo Zitzman and Zitzsum? He's not Chinese. His story is
If
that
his-
he just fell in love
if
with
all
Asian
his-
food being in Colombia because
if
his
all
dad
his
liked it.
waiters were dressed in
I'm
let's
not
say,
asking if. I'm asking what he's doing now. His
No,
typefaces.
I don't know what.
Yeah,
he,
but wait.
I can
wait,
only judge
I have
don't name
just-
Chinese. I don't know
want
what
to
he's
interject
doing.
here. His restaurant's not called Los Chinos.
No, but what I'm saying is that
As a matter of fact, it was
If you-
called No Name Chinese.
it's.
Well,
I'm
that
saying
was the one.
Zitzsum.
But that was a previous-
that was before, that was
Zitzsum. So
before.
he's taking the name of a Colombian German man and adding a sum so that it sounds a little Chinese. and he's got his Chinese-esque typefaces. He's got, and beyond that, the food itself is as much a part of the culture as the rice paddy hat.
I think
is he wearing the culture as a costume by making dim sum?
I don't think making the food is that it's purporting that it's Chinese, that it's that you are an authority in a way that you're not. I think that's where you.
I think essentially where they fucked up is Los Chinos.
And listen. Yeah, I think it's a stupid name. I think it's a lot of bad decisions.
I think it's a racist name.
It's a lot of bad decisions all the way around, and I think it may very well be a racist name. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying we have to agree. I'm just saying that as a general rule, before I say that about somebody, I want to make I'll put it this way.
I'm not saying they're racist. I'm saying the name of that place is racist.
I prefer to ascribe...
Raise your hand if you want another drink.
Yes. I prefer to not ascribe to racism what I can ascribe to stupidity.
No, but
I think
we let people play dumb to get away from being racist.
And that may very well be true.
And racism could be a symptom of your stupidity or of your ignorance. Now, there's a difference between ignorance and willful ignorance.
But racism, I think, has to be willful.
I do think that if your name of your restaurant is Los Chinos, and I'm guaranteeing you that they've heard, sir, people have said that this restaurant this name is kind of racist, and you're like, no, this goes back to my family. Then what you're doing is you're invalidating people's feelings. You're invalidating the fact you're being willfully ignorant.
I think it's
nobody said
to me it's a question of
oh my God, it's offensive.
To me, it's a question of the sincerity of it. I think that you can be ignorant, you can land on the wrong decision, but whether it's racist to me is entirely a question of conscience, and there's no way to know it. I just want to, before I back out, because this is my podcast.
No,
I just want to know that the caption legend. There's just such a stupid. If we don't agree that it's racist, we can agree that it's awful. It's just so bad. Whoever's getting paid to do this is just doing a bad job. Legend tells of a legendary warrior whose kung fu skills were stuff of legend. Is a quote from Kung Fu Panda.
Jack Black.
I just want to know this is a Jack Black Kung Fu Panda quote.
Jack Black.
They're making a joke about Kung Fu Panda. For whatever that's worth. Who knows? Maybe it's still racist somehow. If it's racist, Kung Fu Panda's racist because Jack Black was playing a Chinese panda in a Disney movie.
In the world that, racism is the idea of it. The whole essence of what you're talking about is a super hot button.
Oh, yeah.
Right? As a business owner, it's a bad fucking move.
Thank you.
It's a bad fucking move. I'm only talking from God, Emma, you are a saint. Jeez.
We just got a second round of drinks here. We're all happy.
Yeah, I know.
It's quelling
the whole, the idea as a business owner and someone that is unfolding a couple new concepts, you have to think of every angle of things. When I talk about finances and future projects and marketing and so on and so forth, all that stuff matters. And when you're sitting in a room and you're like, yeah, Los Chinos is a good idea. Bro, who the fuck? That is a dumb fucking idea. It is a dumb idea. Why was there nobody in that room saying, bro, this is stupid. This is just dumb.
I don't know.
This is dumb, and it's a bad idea. Call it something else. Call it anything else. Call it Kung Fu Panda, for fuck's sake. I don't care. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Los Chinos is a bad idea.
Yeah, calling it Kung Fu Panda wouldn't make it any more racist. It's it's as racist as it could get. Anyway, we're going to see. My theory is that there are few enough Chinese in Miami, Chinese Americans in Miami, and their voices are quieted enough, aren't heard enough, that place is going to do business hand over fist. And everybody who grew up like this guy, Los Chinos, vamos para Los Chinos, is going to go there. And like every other restaurant, it's going to have a year lifespan, and then we'll never hear from it again.
Well, area turns 5.
Not like every other restaurant, like every other idea that starts, from a marketing standpoint versus an honest endeavor that comes from from a person that wants to tell their point of view.
There's a place, and I spoke about this with my director of operations, Brittany Rothwell, former guest on Ponco Podcast. If you don't know her, reference episode number. We'll insert it here because I don't remember.
No, we won't. That's too much work.
When you start growing into new concepts and so on and so forth, you think about things like, what does this concept mean? What is it for? Who is it for? Like, all those things. So something like Los Chinos, if it ever came into my office, it would be like, this is the dumbest idea I've ever heard. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's pretty dumb. And I won't even waste any time on it because I don't think it adds any value to the Miami landscape.
I'm going to tell a story. When I was in college.
Oh, man. Stories are good.
When I was
Back in college at UF, the Gators.
When I was in college, I went up to the greatest university in the state of Florida.
Relax with that statement.
I went up with my best friend, and we'd all grown up in the Miami bubble, and by the Miami bubble I mean
Kendall.
No, I mean in the sense that like that white passing Hispanics go as white.
Oh man, yeah.
That Cuban culture is the norm.
100.
Is fully understood. Is universal. That we are not the minority. We are the majority in this part of the state. And we get up there, and we grow up like the black community is the minority to us. You know, right? In South Florida in general, like a true minority. We get up to UF and we meet people from all over the state, not just obviously all over the world, all over the state. My buddy says to this one guy who became one of our best friends, black kid from Tallahassee, and he says, "Yo, what's up, my N-word?" Because in Miami you get away with saying that when you look like us. The three of us are all white passing. You could say down here.
Yeah, no, we play both sides of the fence.
Nobody's going to tell you, yo, what is that word? Because people grew up saying that, especially if you played sports.
I got a story for that.
And usually if it was like a team of 20 white guys and 2 black guys, the 2 black guys aren't necessarily going to be like, hey, that's a really offensive word. But this kid in a different context, he's like, yo, what is that word? Like, you can't use that, man. And we got a schooling that day outside of class from a friend about what it means, about what that word means. And I hope that there's a person of Chinese background that hears Los Chinos and gives us a schooling on what that means to them.
I will say.
Because that's privilege. That what we did right there, where we came from a place of privilege.
I got a couple of things.
All right.
So me, personally, a restaurant called Los Chinos, I would not go to. That's just me. Right? Because I think, first of all, the name is dumb, so I think the food is going to be dumb. And it doesn't matter because I am almost sure the influencer, the bite for bite, and the influencer hoopla will be at a maximum when that place opens. That will nothing but draw me away from it. So I will never go there. That's one. Secondly, I, being someone that played sports for many years and still affiliates with sports a lot, when I went to Virginia, right, and I am, I could pass for any side of the aisle here because I'm Cuban, but I look very white, so everyone was very confused.
That's true.
They were all very confused when I went up there. My best friend, and still to this day, is an African-American dude that's, he's got roots to Hawaii and the Samoan culture and the whole thing, and he had dreadlocks and all of that. I'll never forget it. I think I've said this before. My dad, he went up. He drove me up there. And when we got up there, his flight was supposed to leave on Sunday, and on Wednesday he was like, I don't like it here. I'm leaving tomorrow.
Wow. Good luck.
Yeah. No, and he did. And he got on a plane the next day, and he fucking left. And the last thing he told me before he got on that plane was like, in your journey here, because me and my dad had actually not spoken for 2.5 years at that time. In your journey here, when you make friends, make African-American friends and not white friends. And I didn't understand all that. I didn't unpack all that, right? I said, what do you mean? He said, you'll learn. That might be the wisest thing my dad has ever told me in my life of 35 years. That may be the moment my dad was the wisest he's ever been. I don't know. And in the 4 years that I was there, I learned so quickly because my friends that were black, they accepted me as one of theirs. Like, it was like, you're one of us. These people don't like you. So in reference to that word, the N word, right? It was an evolving period for me if you've ever known it, right? You know, like, people always talk shit about, like, how I have braids and how I have dreadlocks and, you know, the tattoos and the gold teeth and the whole thing.
X to the Z.
X to the Z, whatever it may be. But in that time frame, that community is the one that accepted me as one of their own. And the truth is that the other community said they accepted me, but they didn't. And I learned so much about that interesting seesaw battle of race and culture and things, because no matter what, no matter who accepted me and who didn't, I was still Cuban at my core. And the roots that I have and who I was had nothing to do with either one of them. But one of them accepted me as one of them, and the other one didn't really accept me at all. And it's something I learned so much about life. You know what I mean? Like, it's just been like as much as I talk about, you know, like, Ariete is a concept that embraces Miami, but through its Cuban roots, and the company as a whole really does that. I learned so much about race and community and understanding and acceptance in those 4 years than I have ever learned in my entire life. And I think more so than anything is the cultures that feel like they have been wronged, right? They want to look at the people that they feel have been wronged also, and they want to accept them. And, you know, my best friends at that time, Nick Teague, Neil Young, Fonzo Griffin, Dave Thomas. I mean, at one time, it was a house of 5 dudes, and it was me and 4 African-American guys. And those were, like, my family. We played spades every night. We smoked black and milds every night. Like, those were my people. And that is why I understand this struggle of, like, racial appropriation and things like naming a restaurant so much. It's so dumb to me. Like, when I look at what those... And it's like, if I'm in a room with these people, and let's say I'm nobody, I'm just a guy, and they're all talking about this, I'm like, hey, dudes, this is the dumbest fucking idea I've ever heard in my fucking life. Can you look around the world and understand? Forget about your business model. Forget about if the food is good. This is stupid. Calling a restaurant Los Chinos from a business standpoint is dumb. And yes, the younger version of Miami will flock to it. If there's a bunch of DJs and the music is bad and the drinks are cheap, they'll flock. They'll go there. COVID, all the things are gone and everything is fine. And, you know, they'll flock there. But it doesn't make it good in any way. Because I look for good from foundation, not from financial. Financial is there. There's a bunch of shit restaurants in Miami that financially do great. But foundationary value, I don't see the value in it.
I think we might be underestimating the impact of the offensiveness, real or perceived, and what it will do to their business. Yeah.
I gotta take a leak.
That thump you just heard, that was my pen ass hitting the bottom of the table.
Now on 1210 The Man, Romberg's pen ass hits the bottom of the table.
That's going to be our 1210 The Man promo on like every episode.
All right, here's what I want to do. We talk too much. We spend too much time talking about a fake ass Chinese place.
All right.
What if? Let's go through 5 Chinese places that you like in Miami. Can I say a couple that I like?
Sure, yeah.
I love number 1 on my list is Con Chao. Have you been there? All right, it's like on 84th. It's like on 84th Avenue, Southwest 84th Avenue, and just off of Bird Road.
Yeah, no, I know it. I haven't been there, though.
We just feasted there.
Okay.
And that's like my favorite spot. They're Venezuelan Chinese, as I understand it, who have been doing this place for like 30 plus years.
I love that.
I love King Palace up on 163rd. Like you walk in and they do a certain number of roast ducks a day, and when they run out, they're out.
Love that. It's
But
like
then they take the rug, they break it down.
prices a night.
They break it down. They bring you they do like Peking duck style, with like the hoisin sauce and everything. It's fantastic. And then everybody loves Dumpling King. I've had fine experiences there, but I'll give them some love.
Sure.
What are some places that you like? I think tropical Chinese.
Tropical Chinese?
Like that's like when you want to like dress up nice and you go to
Tropical Chinese? Go to church dress
Come on, bro. Have you seen it? Have you seen it recently?
No.
Bro, they redid it.
Yeah,
It's
'cause they
super
got
nice.
They got
You want to go there, Mike? Put on your nice ascot.
No,
And bring an extra couple bucks because
Oh,
it's
yeah?
like it's Con Chao, but they charge you a little bit more because it's nicer.
Yeah, I grew up going to Tropical Chinese. I grew up going to Canton.
Canton.
Canton. I grew up going to what's the one on Geralda?
Bangkok,
Yeah, Bangkok.
Right.
They got the best chicken
which
wings
is
in Miami.
They do like same thing. Like Miami's like Chinese, and then they're like they do a little Thai, and they do a little. You know what I mean?
So you got to still make money, man.
That you gotta make money.
People want to eat certain things, and you got to fucking do it. It's
And
the
so
burrata, it's a burrata salad.
What and I love No Name Chinese. My kid had like a school function thing that went late at night, and we were nearby, and I took her and a friend who had a kid from like Iowa, who had never had any Asian food at all, and I took her to No Name Chinese, and that kid's head exploded, and we gave her all kinds of
Shout out to Pablo Sitzman, one of my
Shout out
best
to
friends and hardest workers that I've ever met, and I cannot wait for him to open.
Yep, amen.
What is the rabbit hole that I'm not allowed to be in?
Okay,
Come on,
we're
give me
we're
the
not
info.
we're not going down this road.
I know we gotta wind
We're
down,
not
but
going
come
down this road,
on.
but we were talking ghost kitchens.
Oh man,
So we're not doing that.
Here's the only thing I'm gonna say about Ghost Kitchen.
No,
The
you don't know what you're doing.
I'm just gonna say
Oh,
here's the only thing I'm gonna
you're
say.
never
About,
going
you've
home.
already said enough, so you can't say anything else. I'm gonna say, when COVID has ended, I am never gonna decide whether I'm gonna stay home and order food. Listen to what I'm saying. I'm never gonna. But you're not allowed to speak.
I'm not. That's tough for me.
I'm never gonna. If I decide I'm going out, nothing that I can order delivered to me in a box is gonna keep me home. Nothing that I can order in a box is gonna keep me home if I'm decided I'm going out. So when the world gets back to normal, right now, Ariette and Chugs formerly was Nave were competing with these other ghost kitchens. But when
That's
you
not
weren't
competition,
doing
but go on.
delivery, you weren't doing delivery before. So, but now you're doing but when the world goes back to normal, I want to go to Ariette. I want to go to Nave, which I've still not been to. I must confess. I want to go to Nave. I don't want to have some ghost kitchen pasta delivered to my house. So that's all I'm gonna say about.
Don't do it, Mike. Don't do it.
Nah.
There's room for both. No, those number of ghost kitchens will whittle down and go away, and it's only for people who get home and it's 9:30 at night and they're hungry and they don't want pizza again because only pizza and Chinese are the only thing they used to deliver back in the day. And they're gonna get delivery. Like none of those people at 9:30 at night is gonna put on their clothes and go to Nave or go to Ariette, get dressed, and go and have a nice dinner. Those people just need to eat and go to sleep, but they just don't want pizza. That's all I'm gonna say about that. Look at Mike's face is red. Is his
This
nose
is where
red?
we do our wind down,
red.
ladies and gentlemen.
You know, I'll leave it at this.
Uh-huh.
And I just have one statement. And it's only because I've had a long day and I've had a couple Negronis and I want to say my piece here, and I won't talk about how I feel about ghost kitchens. I'm going to talk about dining. right? For me, dining and food is a romantic experience. I know for many people, it is to just, it's a satiation, like, they're hungry and they want to feel full.
Eat to live.
That's right. You don't live to eat. I that's a big thing for me because obviously my weight loss battle. But the idea of dining for me is a romantic one. The idea of food is romantic. And I feel like where Miami loses the needle is because it's not romantic. We need to be romantics about it in order for us to break into that next level of dining, right? New York, Chicago, LA, I'll be them very close right now. And they've always been romantic about dining. Dining is a part of life. Dining is going out to dine is a part of the daily thing. And the reason why Miami has not broken into that next level, one is because, and we won't broach this, but it's because of the media, right? And how they approach dining. And secondly, because of how we as a community approach dining. To me, when I go out to eat, it's for an escape from the world. And during the pandemic, I think it was more so than ever. And I think that area, and I'm not fucking blowing smoke up my ass, but we tried to hone in on that as much as possible. We wanted to be that escape for so many people. And like I told everyone at pre-shift for months and months and months, this is everyone's chance. Whether we did 8 covers, 100 covers, 200 covers, it didn't matter. This is their opportunity to forget about what's happening in the world. And that's why I'm a romantic. You can't put that in a box. You can't do it out of this stainless steel box of a kitchen that you're working out of. There is no emotion. There is no attachment to that. And people could disagree with me, and I don't go, fuck. I don't care. Like, it is just what I've experienced in my life, and I've worked in everything from fucking ratchet-ass bars to high-level what should be Michelin-star kitchens to running my own businesses. Ghost kitchens are fine, but they are no different than Domino's.
Amen. That's the line. Ghost kitchens are alternatives to Domino's.
Sure.
That's it.
Domino's is great, though.
And this is where we do our parting recommendations. Everybody's going to do a thing where they recommend, it could be anything, something you watched, read, ate, place you went, whatever it may be. And then, if you're still sticking around after these recommendations and the shameless plugs, you will have to be a Patreon subscriber to listen to whatever insane questions Mike, I'm willing to bet, is making up on the spot. Did you prep for this? No. So, parting recommendations. Carlos, you can go first, or you can pass off to one of us.
Parting recommendations.
Get in there.
And not shameless plugs, because that comes after. So,
Okay.
recommending things that are not yours.
Okay. For anybody who's been living on a rock, The Mandalorian.
God bless.
I'm gonna recommend.
Man, what a good show.
I'm gonna recommend The Mandalorian. Like, that is the best Star Wars creation. I'm gonna go out and
Really?
say, at times, it's the best Star Wars property of anything that's ever been created under that name. At times, it's the best thing that's ever been created under the Star Wars name.
That's tough, man.
Without saying what happened at the end of season 2.
Oh, yeah, no, it was epic.
At the end of season 2, if you grew up on Star Wars, if your eyes weren't welled up, then you weren't a real fan. And there's nothing
I was
else.
a little stoned when I watched
There's
it,
probably
so
like,
if I welled up.
well, maybe. Oh, then you for sure you were.
No, I don't know. A little stoned.
When the Ewok and Baby Yoda met.
No, you can't
No, I'm
talk
kidding.
about all
I'm
the
kidding.
things.
That,
You
Don't
can't
do
do
it.
the thing.
that didn't happen.
I haven't seen it.
Maybe
So,
it didn't happen.
I will eventually. But
Nick will watch it on YouTube, but it's free.
Oh man,
No.
an Ewok and Baby Yoda. That has to happen, right?
Stop.
At some point. We have to
I
get
don't
new-
know what's going on here.
But
I
I'm
need to
saying in
reference
general,
my-
Ewok and
Oh,
Baby
yeah,
Yoda.
Sure.
I need
yeah.
to reference my only influencer friends, the Miami Food Pug, that actually have a chia pet of Baby Yoda. It's
Wow.
not Yoda,
Baby Yoda
it's
chia
Grogu. But
Wow.
a baby in the little carrito that he has.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, it's good. It's
good.
I like it.
But Baby Yoda didn't have hair. That doesn't make
Grogu,
sense. But
it's
okay.
not Yoda.
It's always going to be Baby Yoda.
It's not Baby Yoda, bro. It's not.
I can't.
Anyways, spoiler alert.
Party
All right.
recommendations?
So, I'm going to recommend that I have really been diving deep into the 1998 album of Cannabis called Can I Bus? And I'm going to reference Second Round KO, the album version, unedited, as a thing that I have knocked to a lot this week. I will also reference the fact that I have watched the show Shooter almost in its entirety. And albeit not a great show, rather entertaining, and I enjoyed it to its extent. I will also reference an article that was completely about me, which it was on flamingomag.com, kind of written by Eric Barton, really not written at all.
Kind of?
Because, yeah, it was...
As told to. It's as told
by
to.
Michael Beltran, as told to Eric Barton.
I saw it, yeah.
Yeah, reopening a restaurant isn't easy. Just ask Michael Beltran. I will reference my own article as good reading.
Very good.
That sounds an awful lot like the shameless plug. But
That
okay.
was 100% a
Let you
shameless
pass.
plug.
Let you pass.
100%.
Sneaky shameless plug.
I'll do what I can here.
Hey,
Come to Nave. Come eat. We're open 5 days
it's
a
not
week.
time. It's not time.
All right, that's fine.
I'm going to
I'll go
recommend
fuck
two
myself
things. Number one, a podcast called In the Corner Back.
Pancom Podcast.
No, not Pancom Podcast. It's a podcast called In the Corner Back by the Woodpile. I have been a guest on this podcast. So has past Pancom Podcast guest Ricardo Paollosa. But most recently, they had Rosa Maria Paya on as a guest. So if you didn't get enough Rosa Maria Paya on Pancom Podcast, check that out. And second recommendation, a YouTube channel called Whistlin' Diesel. Whistlin' Diesel is a YouTube channel made by a bunch of Indiana people. And if you are fascinated by what country folk do with trucks, it is incredible. The most recent video I watched was where they put 4 giant monster truck tires on their Ford F3 something 50 or no sé qué pinga, and they put all these like extenders on them, so they stuck out past the wheels, and they took it out into the Gulf of Mexico.
Wow.
Wild stuff. Whistlin'
America.
Diesel. I was fascinated. I watched way too much Whistlin' Diesel. That's my recommendation.
Shocked by that at all.
Carlos, shameless
Is a hot
plugs.
pocket a sandwich?
What's that?
Is a hot pocket a sandwich?
Listen, a hot pocket is not a sandwich. A hot pocket is very clearly a hand pie.
Okay. I just wanted to...
This is
quickly.
ridiculous.
All right, that's cool.
Carlos,
not
shameless
button.
plugs.
It's not button.
Shameless plug.
Not a button.
Shameless plug. MiamiHerald.com. These guys pay
I
my
subscribe personally every month to MiamiHerald.com.
They pay my bills. They look. If you live in Miami, you care about the things that affect you most are everything local, local politics, local food. You know, all those things, local music, all those things affect your life much more than anything else. So if you need to know about what's going on in South Florida, get a subscription. They're really cheap. Get a digital only. Don't get the paper delivered
No,
to your house.
I get that I'm a digital.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Me too.
I feel like the politics portion of the Miami Herald should be bigger.
Agreed.
It should if we were looking at the Miami Herald as a whole, it should be like 40% politics, 30% food, and then
30 food, huh?
oh yeah, come on.
And then sports, the rest.
Sports 20%, 10% is weather. It's fine.
All right, weather.
Yeah.
All right, right on.
All the other stuff doesn't really matter.
All right, that's fine.
That's how I'd like to unpack that.
Shameless plugs?
I already did flamingomag.com.
That's right. Yeah, all of your social media things.
Right.
You know
But,
how this goes.
they're changing. Apparently, we're going to start having a Pig Ink apparel at Pig Ink
yeah?
Apparel. Yeah. We are in the midst of relaunching our merchandise line because the world of today is all about however you can make money. So give me all your money on Pig Ink Apparel. At Pig Ink Apparel.
Very good.
And then there's Pig Ink, and then there's Nave Miami, Ariete Miami. Stay tuned to Chug's Diner, which has already had building issues, but we are building that bitch new. And there will be a new Instagram handle very soon.
Very good.
New thing.
Very good.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh, I like it.
dademag.com/panconpodcast for past episodes. You can find What, Mike? What?
How can I not talk about this? Today is the 12th
Yeah.
of January.
Yes.
Ariete turns 5 in 2 days.
Yeah?
5 years old. We're not doing any big party like we've done in the past because I just don't have the mental bandwidth to do it. But Ariete turns 5 in 2 days.
Sade brunch?
That's on the 16th.
That's happening.
I have to talk to possibly Poppy about
At least
that.
play Sade. That's it. That's all you got to do.
I mean, listen, I'll talk to Dave. We'll make a playlist.
This is Sade's birthday, right? Sade's birthday?
Yes, 16th of January.
Yeah.
Her name's
That's a great thing to be tied to.
Sade
man.
brunch, man.
Yeah.
Shout out to Sade.
So Dade Mag.
Helen. Her name's Helen.
Her name's Helen. dademag.com/panconpodcast at panconpodcast on all of the social media things. You can also go to youtube.com/dademag for all of our YouTube stuff. And if you want extra content, and depending on how much you've pledged, a mug or a tote bag, God forbid you should be a Pancon Podcast tote bag person, that's patreon.com/dademag. If we get enough people on there, I may be the third person on this episode with a Miami Herald subscription.
I have a shameless plug.
Go for it.
I'd like to plug the Lazy Oyster.
Okay.
This is not an ad. This is totally,
It's just a plug.
This is just a plug.
DJ Khaled plugged them pretty hard, huh?
I'm way bigger than DJ Khaled.
That's true.
I mean, what does that guy know? He eats everything.
That's true.
Yeah.
He the best.
I'm just saying it because Carlos is here and he's a Miami authority on food. I think you should try the Lazy Oyster.
I'm very excited about it. I'm a
And-
little scared.
Why?
I don't know, man.
Tell me your fear.
Look, my honest fear is that, like Bourdain said, all it takes is one bad oyster.
I know.
All
I
it
was actually
takes
reading
is one bad
Bourdain's
oyster.
book today about the burger chapter that's only 2 pages long. And it's like, my favorite line was, brioches are very good for breakfast.
Amen. Amen.
Makes sense.
Brioche is good for breakfast, not good for donuts, not good for bread, for burger bread.
You don't think it's good for a donut?
No.
I mean, it's very sweet.
No, it's not
Oh,
good
man,
for
this is
donut.
a whole other podcast.
Yeah.
So, this is where it ends, unless
I
you're on
guess so.
Patreon. So, Mike, this is where you do your Patreon thing. Whatever your Patreon thing is. What are people paying for this time?
I'm not sure yet. I'll figure it out.
No,
on the
you
other
figure it
side.
out now.
Yeah, 5 questions.